Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. As always, there's a ton going on around the NBA for us to dive into. Unfortunately, a lot of injuries to get into today, but also a little bit of drama involving, well, who else? But my Lakers. So we'll talk a bit about that too. I'm Trevor Lane. You can find me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane, joined by Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA. Keith, it's already happening. The tidal wave of injuries is hitting the league.
Yeah, injuries and like you said, drama. And then the team I cover, the Celtics, they just don't play games. They played and then took 3 days off, and they'll play again eventually, some point. I think maybe tomorrow. But yeah, it's the injuries, man. They're it's even though none of them are like season enders. It's just this is not where you want to be before the calendar even ticks over to November. So where do you want to start?
I guess let's start with Zaire Williams, dealing with knee soreness. That's going to keep him out for a bit. This is, I mean, like you said, I hate seeing this happen so early in the season.
Mhm.
Like that's concerning. Yesterday we had Kawhi. Now starting things off with a young player in Zaire Williams. What's the prognosis here? Could this become like a recurring thing for him this season?
Yeah, hopefully not. All they're saying is he has right knee soreness stemming from patellar tendonitis, and they're saying about 4 to 6 weeks before he's going to even like start up again with that. So we'll see where that goes, and that's rough.
Yeah,
This
that's a
was
long time.
one right young player, second year guy. Yeah, definitely a long time, a second year guy, and he had a chance to play he was going to always play a big role, but play a huge role for the Grizzlies early in the year with Jaren Jackson Jr. out, with Dylan Brooks was out to start the year, and then Kyle Anderson gone. It was like Zaire Williams, like, here's 35 minutes a night, let's go. And unfortunately, this knee stuff propped up at the end of training camp, and now here we are, and this is 4 to 6 weeks from now. So 4 weeks is essentially the beginning of December, 2 more weeks. So I'm guessing we're probably thinking Christmas-ish return for Zaire Williams. Again, not the end of the world if nothing else comes out of this, and he's fine when he gets back. But we're going to be looking at the Grizzlies as one of those teams that's going to be like, as long as they can just kind of keep their heads above water, it's like they can be adding trade additions here in the
Right.
next couple months.
Right. I mean, as long as they can get healthy, I've said that just a few times over the past few seasons. As long
Right?
as they can get healthy, this can still be a really tough team to deal with. But these injuries are starting to pile up for them.
Sure.
Never a good sign, particularly for a young, exciting team in the NBA. Speaking of injuries, though, Damian Lillard goes down due to a calf injury. Now, it sounds like he said he's not that worried, just didn't want to push it in like the
Yep.
fifth game of the season. But Portland's winning streak does come to an end against the Miami Heat last night. And then Lillard goes down to this calf injury. Something to keep an eye on. He was the Western Conference Player of the Week. I mean, performing at an insanely high level, back to being Dame time.
Yeah.
And now, boom, injury. This, again, it's just, I hate this. I hate that we
Yeah.
turned injuries on. Turn these things back off.
It worries me too when it's an older player gets like
Mhm.
these things that are almost kind of like nagging injuries for them, because then it feels like is this something that's gonna pop up again and again, and then is it gonna turn into, all right, I'm gonna have to be out a week instead of just missing a game and those kind of things. So I do get very worried about that with guys like Damian Lillard, because that kind of stuff is just tough, with this. Now, he said if it was the playoffs, I wouldn't even come out of the game and I'd be playing, and it's fine. But he did say he's probably going to miss the game on Friday night, and say, let's go from there. But yeah, we're going to see that this is this is definitely tough to see how he gets through this.
Something to keep an eye on for sure. And again, like you mentioned, with it with an older player, DeLon Wright, who've been playing well, now out 6 to 8. Man, we've got 4 to 6 weeks with Williams. Now DeLon Wright, 6 to 8 weeks with a hamstring injury, a hamstring issue. I mean, these can be tricky. You never know when a hamstring injury can flare back
Mhm.
up. But man, 6 to 8 weeks, that's telling you this is something significant here.
No, without a doubt. If we think of like James Harden it never really went away
Right.
until this offseason. And then he talked about how like he had to basically just sit for a long time until he was able to even go. So, obviously DeLon Wright, I'm not saying he's James Harden. He's not that level of importance to the Washington Wizards, but he is a key player for them behind Bradley Beal and behind Monte Morris. He's like their third guard. They really were getting a lot out of playing those three together. So we're again, this is hard. And their next kind of guard up in their grouping is the rookie Johnny Davis, who through summer league in the preseason, he didn't look like he was at all ready for anything resembling NBA minutes. So that's going to be something they're going to have to work through in Washington. Really, again, 6 to 8 weeks. Just if we start doing the timeline, if that's 8 weeks, you're talking New Year's at the earliest on this, and probably sometime into the beginning part of January.
I mean, that's the thing. All of these injuries that we have coming through now, they're I mean, aside from maybe Damian Lillard, they're injuries that are looking at, you're maybe talking about the second. I mean, most people see Christmas as the halfway point for the season,
Sure.
as a stopping point. That's what we're looking at, like kind of the second unofficial half of the season. Some people look at it as post trade deadline, second half of the season. But either way, this is significant. The amount of time that these guys are going to be out. These aren't just like minor, hey, I'm going to be back in a week. Miles Turner, I stepped on the ball boy's foot and I'm going to be
Yep.
okay a week from now. I'm going to go out there and play. This is like these guys are going to be out for a long stretch of time. And then these teams are going to have to scramble to try to figure out what they're going to do. We'll see what happens there in Washington. Could change some
Yep.
things for them as we get closer to the
And,
trade.
and that's a team that's trying to be in the play-in mix, right? Like
Mhm.
they're trying, obviously they'd like to be in the top 6, but they want to be in that 8 to 10 range and just get into the play-in and see if we can get in and make a playoff appearance and maybe make something happen. And now it's kind of like, yeah, that's probably not going to be the way that goes.
Yeah, I mean, they've got Monte Morris, who's playing just fine for them. You've
Yep.
got Bradley Beal, but your depth is going to be tested quite a bit
At a
there.
spot where you don't want to be without, right? It's
Right.
that's probably the hardest position to be without. And again, it's like they have like I was looking at Cleveland, right? So Cleveland, Darius Garland goes down. You've still got Donovan Mitchell moves over to the point, but then you've got Raul Neto there, who's just another good, solid, been around for a million years, can just step in and give you 15, 20 minutes. The Bucks have a whole bunch of guys that could just step in and give you 15, 20 minutes. At the point, Washington, it's Monte Morris, and then you're probably going to say, hey, Bradley Beal, we need you to swing over and run the show a little bit
Mhm.
here. And then, maybe Johnny Davis, but like I said, he just looked so far away
Yeah.
the other day.
Now, we also got a little bit of intel on the Utah Jazz. Now, this is fortunately not injury related here, but they are pretty high on Jordan Clarkson. And according to Zach Lowe, they are looking at Clarkson as the guy they don't really want to move or least likely to be traded out of the players that we've heard about, which of course begs the question, then who are you trading? Right? Because Clarkson is kind of the one piece they have left of the pieces that we're assuming they're putting on the trade market that you would think would have some value. Mike Conley probably has negative value. Same thing with Rudy Gay, Bojan Bogdanovic. They already sold off. So Jordan Clarkson, if he's not available, I do wonder: does that mean Utah is just standing pat?
Yeah, I'm starting to think they're going to say, hey, let's roll with this.
Mhm.
And much like Danny Ainge did with the Celtics, it's let's just see if Minnesota doesn't have very good, or maybe Cleveland doesn't end up as good as we all collectively think they might be. Right now, both of those teams off to pretty good starts and they're feeling okay. But hey, we don't, it's I wonder if Danny Ainge has also learned a little bit of how many draft picks is too many. Do I really
Sure.
need 50 draft picks, going forward and those kind of things. And as long as they keep playing well, and the Jazz, it's weird. I did not expect this. So by no means am I trying to be like, told you, because I didn't. But it doesn't feel fluky the way they're playing. Like it feels like it might be kind of real because their ball movement is good.
It
Their
is.
shooting is pretty good. Defensively, I don't think they're going to quite hold up there. I think that's where, as they get into playing some better teams and some teams are healthy and they've got some continuity, I think they'll struggle. But yeah, but it's offensively, I think as long as they've kind of got these guys, they're going to hang for a little bit. So yeah, I still think, somebody calls and sends the right trade offer to Ainge for Mike Conley, Michael Beasley, those guys. We'll see. But I go back to Tony Jones said in the preseason, covers the Jazz for The Athletic. He said, I think it's more likely Jordan Clarkson gets extended this year then gets traded. And now we're hearing, Zach Lowe backing that to a point as well. So, we're going to keep watching the Jazz. Kind of we're watching them to see like, all right, what happens when they trade? We might be watching the Jazz because maybe they're just end up being good. I don't know. We're going to find out.
I mean, I guess if it costs them a shot at, if it costs them Wembanyama, then it's probably not a good thing.
Yeah.
But it's also hard to chastise a team for winning, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like it's hard to say, "Oh my gosh, what are they doing? Why are they winning?" when the players are finding success. Will it be sustainable? We'll find out. Who knows? It could be that they wind up, by the time the dust settles and the season is over, they are who we thought they were going to be heading into the season. And this was just an aberration at the beginning of the season where they won some games. Like you said, though, it does look sustainable. Um, I don't know. I'd be tempted if I was Utah too, to just kind of say, "All right, let's keep this thing rolling
Yep.
and see what happens."
Yeah. I mean, teams generally, from everybody I've ever talked to, they don't start focusing on the standings as much until we get to around Christmas time, because then it's like, all right, let's start making our decision here with roughly a month and a half to go until the trade deadline. Let's start seeing where we're going to be. And then that's when it's usually the distance is not so far. Now, yeah, if Utah keeps winning 4 out of every 5 games for the
Right.
next 2 months, well, then they're probably going to put themselves too far away from really bottoming it out. But at that point, you're probably making the decision to say, hey, you know what? We're going to miss out on Wembanyama, but we're going to make an actual playoff push here. So because we, now we're sitting at something like 20-8 or something like that, then they might say, all right, this is not the time for us to turn and start to tank and those kind of things. So yeah, it's right now today you haven't put so much distance, but yeah, you keep winning at this clip, you're probably going to. But this is where I have to kind of constantly remind myself with both players and teams. It's October 27th. Breathe. Breathe. It's been a week. Like, let's not get too fired up over what a single player is doing or what a team is doing one way or the other, because it's probably a lot of this is good. We're going to look back and be like, all right, that's not real. That wasn't real months from now.
That is a perfect segue into our final two news topics, because we're dealing with the two teams who have not won yet. The Orlando Magic, Cole Anthony out indefinitely due to an oblique injury. What you're in Orlando? What's the status there? What can the I know the Magic aren't necessarily going for it this season, but they've actually
Sure.
been a lot of fun to watch. And Paulo
Yeah.
Banchero has been for real. You'd like to see them, have some success this year. My goodness, imagine Paulo and Wembanyama side by side. Although I guess you can say the same with just about anybody with
No, I'd
Wembanyama.
like to imagine that one. I like that. That
That
one.
could be really good.
Yeah.
What does this mean for the Orlando Magic? No Cole Anthony. He was so huge for them last year.
This is a mess. They have nothing left at point guard healthy right now. Cole Anthony's out. Jalen Suggs is out. Markel Fultz is still out. Then you start looking at, all right, well, who could we slide over? Gary Harris out. RJ Hampton is probably the only thing resembling a guy who could play at the point. Terrence Ross is a guard in theory, but he's more of kind of like a smallish wing there, just the way he plays. And then you've got Kevon Harris, who's a two-way player, who's very much a two guard, kind of more in the traditional sense. If anything, he's more of a 2-3 because he can play up a little defensively. So that really leaves RJ Hampton. Now, some people have already been like, so what? They're going to lose games. That's kind of secondary, right? Like they're
Right.
going to lose games anyway. Like they're not going to be a very good team. Yes, you would hope to not be 0-5. You would hope to maybe be 2-3 at this point or something. But the challenge is when you are missing guards on a bad team like this, in a young team, the bigs aren't going to look as good. They're not going to play as functional. You're not going to see what they could be because you don't have anybody just get you into your stuff, run your sets, get guys
Right.
set up, put guys in the right spot. That's where it gets super messy. Yeah, I'm all for give Banchero and Wagner more playmaking duties, right? Put them on ball a lot, let them create, but they're not truly running an offense through those guys. It's just going to get super messy, and that's where, as I talk about a lot with these young teams, these injuries suck so much on these teams because it's just lost development time. If let's say they play this without a point guard for the next 2 weeks, that's like 6, 7, 8 games of, Well, that's lost. Now you start talking, you really get it's a tenth of a season that's just thrown out the window because we just didn't have anything in those games to really set us. So that's what gets lost here. It's not about wins and losses on the court. It just gets super messy. That's why you see a lot of times rebuilding teams, they'll keep a couple veteran guards around because we just need somebody who can get us in our offense, run things, get us
Mhm.
where we should be. So it's rough right now, and it's probably going to be that way for at least the next week or two. Maybe Suggs gets back sometime in that period. Maybe Markel Fultz is going to be ready to go, but for right now, it's pretty ugly.
Yeah, and it's not you want these guys to have opportunities to develop, and that means having some
Yep,
guards on your roster. Even if you are losing games, you still
yep,
want them to have a benefit from those losses.
absolutely.
Um, LeBron took to Instagram, posted a reel of himself dunking from last night's loss to the Denver Nuggets, and in the caption said, "How long will they take you for granted?" That's got people wondering, what does he really mean by that? Thinking he could be referencing the Lakers not making a trade as of this point, currently struggling at 0 and 4, and still having Russell Westbrook's $47 million sitting on their roster. Um, how much do you buy into the hype behind this kind of stuff? Like athletes love doing this kind of thing. Put a cryptic comment out there and then let everybody go crazy over it. But what are your thoughts on LeBron saying that? Are you reading into it? Do you think this is him trying to put pressure on the front office to do something here?
Maybe. LeBron has kind of been the king of the subtweet too. If we're gonna add to
Hmm.
his as they say in Game of Thrones, titles, right? If we add one more to him, he is king of the subtweet because he has been. If I think about it with LeBron, I go back. I'm gonna get it wrong. I can't remember who it was because this was just a little bit after my time as a kid. That's just LeBron and I are just a few years difference in age. It was either Arthur or Arnold. I can't remember. Right? Remember way back in the Cavs days, and it was just the balled up fist of the cartoon character. It's like an
Oh,
aardvark or something. I can't remember, but
yeah.
he remember he tweeted that out like when he was with the Cavs. He was just like mad. It was just a balled up fist, and it's like, yeah, this guy he. I don't think LeBron does anything in season without meaning behind it.
Arthur.
I think there's a reason to it's Arthur. Is that what
Hmm.
it is? Yeah,
Yep.
I couldn't remember if it was Arthur or not. I don't know enough about it, but I do remember the image, of just this. He was like mad. I want to say
Yeah.
his friends were making fun of him or something. He's like, I'm gonna punch somebody. But anyway, it's now I'm just looking like an old idiot. No, um, but I don't think he does anything without meaning behind it. I think he very much is trying to set up for, all right, this is, we'll see what happens next. Who's he pointing to? Is it his teammates? And he's trying to motivate them. Is it the Lakers front office? Who, I mean, the reality is, it's funny because a couple people are like, well, they're not going to tank this season because they don't own their pick. That part is true. I've also seen they're not going to tank the season because they need to sell tickets. They're the Lakers. They're going to sell tickets. They sold tickets when they were horrible,
Hmm.
with, a bunch of kids on the team. Like, they're still going to sell tickets. And also, like, they're going to pitch then, hey, come watch LeBron break the scoring record, right? Like that's going to be where it goes. But yeah, my guess is there is probably to some extent here of a, hey, let's just at least be thinking about what we can do. Let's not just be content to let this be what the year is going to be, from now. And again, we didn't even make it to November before this is happening. Like, that's crazy.
Well, it is. It is and it isn't, right? Like
Sure.
the fan base and the Lakers in general,
Yeah.
the nerves are beyond frayed
Yeah.
from last season. I mean, everybody was on edge coming into the season. So to start off the way they had, there's definitely that sense of, oh no, here we go again. What are they doing? You know what I mean? Nobody wants to go
Hmm.
through that again last season. I've
Sure.
called it many times, the worst season in team history. That was awful. And I'm sure LeBron doesn't want to go through that again either. You
Yeah.
could see there was frustration with him last night in that game. Um, and now I have not watched the video. I'm just seeing this. So I can't say for sure exactly what Windhorst said, but I'm seeing somebody commented here, posted over to Lakers Reddit, posted a video of Brian Windhorst on ESPN today saying that what Windhorst is saying is that the Lakers, their message to other teams is that they're waiting for the big one, the big trade. But the vibe from LA is that they're not expecting a Westbrook trade. They hope the current roster will grow and internally think their best bet is to wait for the 2024 season when Westbrook's contract expires. If that's the context around the Lakers right now, and you add that to LeBron's post, it makes sense.
Sure.
Because then
Yeah.
if you're LeBron, you're saying, well, then why did I extend? What are we doing here? Like, you're talking about like LeBron might, if that's going to be your take, if it's, and that's fine. Like you can say strategically, they may be better off just waiting to have cap space next summer and all of that. But if you're LeBron, say, well, okay, so you want me to just go sit down over there and wait or what? Because they're not going to do anything with this roster as is. So I do wonder if those two things are related.
That wouldn't surprise me. I think there's definitely probably something to that, right? I'm not. I don't want to go, the whole windy, why would they do that?
Now,
Meme?
why
But
would they do
that
that?
is right. Like I do. I mean, obviously Brian Windhorst is super tapped in, right? Like
Sure.
he, does know his stuff. I don't think it's quite like when he was right. He was very close with LeBron when he was with the Cavs originally because he'd covered him in high school and then covered him all the way through. But I do think one of the things that you can't send those two messages of we're waiting for the big trade, but we also think it's best to wait until he just expired.
Right.
That doesn't work. The big trade has to happen with Westbrook's contract, right? So either you're waiting for the big trade or you truly believe just let his contract expire. My thing is now with Westbrook, and I've given this a lot of thought, and I know you've had a million conversations down this vein because it's what you do. But for me, it was just talking with some people, and somebody's like, "What would you do right now if you were running the Lakers?" And I said, "Well, I get the idea of like maybe it's not right to make a trade, but I would be done with it. I'd be like, just go home. We're John Walling you, go home because it's not going to work. It's over. You've given it a year. You came back hoping all some fresh new coaching staff and new plans and stuff. It's just not going to be a thing. Just stop trying to make fetch happen. Move along. Bench Russ. Call it good, right? And I think at this point too, I don't think Russ is going to fight him all that much. I mean, you might get some, but what's he going to do? Demand a trade? Okay.
Right.
Great.
We've been trying.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Like it's good to know you want that. And here's the thing. What if he got so angry that he's like, fine, I'll give back $10 million in a buck. Great. Maybe then that's what you do. And you say, screw it. We'll go that direction. I don't think they would. I think they'd rather hold on. But yeah, it is really, really hard because that's one thing you can't, whether it's through the media or direct, you can't say we're holding out to make a big trade but we really think the best thing to do is let his number expire. Because either if you came out today and said, look, Russ is going home, we're going to let his contract expire, we're going to play with cap space next summer. I get a whole lot of people be very, very angry. Because that's, what are you doing? But at least it's a plan, right? At least it's like, this is our plan. Please stick with us, see it through. Like, I know it's probably not going to be a great year, but honestly, you're probably better off that way too, because you're not putting a negative player on the court for 30 plus minutes a night, ideally. Or say, look, we're going to actively do everything we can to trade them. Both picks are on the table in the right trade and blah, 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 blah. And we're trying. And I think like we talked, it might have even been in the last show, people do have to be a little patient. Half the league can't be traded right now. Right. So I get it. It may be crappy for the next month and a half until the trade window really opens on December 15th. But if the Lakers start sending that message of like, hey, we're going to get something done when we can. All right, at least it's a plan. Right now, completely devoid of any emotional attachment to it, just feels like there's no plan. It just feels like, oh, we just hope it'll get better. Yeah. That's not like, that's not a thing. Like that's
a good description for the last two seasons now.
I mean, kind of, right? And like last year, I get it because last year we talked about it a million times in a million shows. The Lakers hit the point of no return where it's like, look, now there's too many guys that are hurt. This is just done. Like, even though we don't have the pick, we're not playing for anything anymore. So there's no reason to say, hey, AD, come back and bust your tail over the last 20 games when it's not going to mean anything. But Yeah, it does. It just seems, and I guess I go back to too, and I'm not trying to pour salt in the wound here, but like, what in the world was extending Rob Pelinka? Why? Why did you
Yeah.
do
Oh
that?
yeah.
Like, it makes
Well,
no sense.
and the thing is, they knew when they were doing it that it was they would get torn to shreds for it
Yep.
because when they did it, they kept it quiet.
Yep.
They
Yeah.
didn't say anything about it, and
They come
then
out for
they
weeks.
it
Yep.
eventually leaks out like 4 months later.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, clearly, they knew the optics would have been horrible if it came out when it happened. Like, they were bad when it came out. Would have been awful if it was, "Frank Vogel, you're fired. The season was so terrible. Hey, Rob, here's an extension." And that's the way it went down.
Yep.
Mind blowing. Mind blowing. But in any event, I do wonder if part of this is, and I'm sure I'll get into this a lot more over on Lakers Nation, part of this is other teams are saying, "You guys are in trouble. You guys are desperate. We need everything
Oh,
if you want anything
100%.
from
Yeah.
us." And so
Yeah.
the Lakers are and so other teams are saying, are using that, and the Lakers are going, "Well, we'll just keep him. We'll just keep Russ. That's totally our plan. That's totally our plan is just to keep him." So,
Sure. Yeah.
you know what I
Oh,
mean?
I
Like,
mean,
if
if I'm
there's
another
some element
team,
of that to this.
yeah, if I'm the Pacers and it's like, hey, you want to do the Hill Turner trade? It is both picks. I want a swap right in 2028, and I want every second round pick you can give me. And you know what? I want David Putney just because I GD feel like it. Like, right? Like, it's like that's where I
Right.
would be, right? Like I want all that. I want everything you can give me because yeah, because you're hoping right now, you're hoping the Lakers panic, right? If you're another team, it's make a panic deal. Now they can't make a panic deal and trade away, the next 5 years of draft picks because some of them are already gone. But you could, hopefully pin them into a panic trade of, hey, 27, 29, and throw in a swap right in 2028, like in between. Two things I want to address too, just because I've been asked this a lot is at what point does LeBron ask for a trade? Can't be traded this year because he extended. So
Mhm.
he's not, cannot be traded. It's not that he has ability to block a trade or anything. He cannot be traded. So that's kind of part one. I apologize. They're cutting the grass outside right
Oh, you're fine.
now. So that is he cannot be traded. The other thing is with picks, because I've had Lakers fans say, what can we do about protecting those picks? Because they are so far down the line. The answer is very, very little because you
Protect
can't
2027.
you
That's about it.
could, but only to an extent because if it did ever roll over into 2028, then you can't trade 2029
Right.
because you
Yeah.
can't trade picks in back-to-back years. So you'd have to really protect 2027 to turn into like 2
Second
seconds and
rounders.
something like
And teams
that.
don't want that.
And teams, if I'm another team, I'm hoping the Lakers fall so far apart that like, hey, these are going to be like the picks the Nets were delivering to the Lakers or the Celtics rather,
Right.
years down the line. So yeah, it is. This is tough. I mean, I fully empathize with any Laker fan who jumps in my mentions, comments here on the show, or I just see on Twitter or wherever, and is just like, trade the picks. Just you have to do something. We have to make it better than it is right now. Because I get it. Because to your point, you can't. Nobody wants the same year as a year ago if this is the team you root for. It's just
Yep.
because it's not even being bad with the idea of like, well, at least we'll get in the Wembenyama sweepstakes. Like that's
Right.
not even a thing.
It's a joyless season
Yeah.
with no
And that
with no
sucks.
silver lining to it.
That sucks on October 27th,
Yep.
right? Like nobody should feel like, well, our season's over. I mean, I legit know, yes, they do exist, actual Orlando Magic fans that are like, hey, I get to watch Paulo. He's awesome. And
Yep.
we lose, and maybe we'll get Wembanyama or we'll get Scoot Henderson. So they don't even necessarily really care about losing the games.
No.
Get guys healthy and win. Like with the Lakers, there's I mean, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go all in on 35 minutes a night of Max Christie development minutes? Like that's not gonna be a thing. So yeah, I get it. And then the last thing, as I said to you off air, this is not more than the Russ trade, because that's obviously the big one on his ledger. But of the immediate roster construction, Rob Pelinka and crew need to be asked, how did we sign 10 guards and none of them can shoot? Like, how
Yeah.
did this happen? Where even again, some of them are kind of below their norms, but it's like it's so bad, and it's like, how did this happen? Like, how did you not stumble into Bryn Forbes for a minimum?
Right.
or something like that. Those are the questions that they really need to be getting pushed on. And I would also start to, because they never did it last year. I'd start earlier than usual. If some dude that they like is Devin Kennedy, right? They have
Tearing
him
up
in
the
the G
G League.
League. If he is tearing it up in the G League, I would see you later, Dennis Schroeder. See you later. Uh, Now I'm blanking on like other minimum value guys. See you later, Troy Brown.
Sure.
Buy Thomas Bryant. Like I would just start moving, because what difference is it going to make? Like those guys are not saving you this year. I would just I get it. It's going to add to your tax bill or whatever, but you got to get some form of shooting. Because the last thing I can only imagine what it's going to be like if Devin Kennedy comes out, starts the G League season on fire, and then gets called up by Charlotte. And he's,
Oh yeah.
and then he's,
Yep.
doing all right off Charlotte's bench. Like the Laker fans are going to lose their minds. It's like we had this guy. Now the Lakers, to be clear, I know I've explained this on the show before. They have they don't even have right of first refusal. Nothing. He's an NBA free agent, signed with whoever he wants, but he's still in the system. He's in the same facility that the Lakers are in every day.
Right.
So they're obviously seeing him like, and I'm not saying Devin Kennedy's going to be amazing, but he has a track record as a guy who can shoot and score. Like I don't know. I would not. You can't ride into months and months into the season with whoever this year's version of Avery Bradley and Kent Bazemore are on the roster, because you just can't do it. You have to start cutting those guys loose and finding other guys, because if nothing else, then maybe somebody pops and they're a diamond in the rough, and now you've got something moving forward.
Well, and they've got a team full of guys that are all essentially, with the exception of like Kendrick Nunn, is above average as a 3-point shooter over his career. But most of the guys on their career are just slightly below league average. Patrick
Mm-hmm.
Beverley on his career a little bit above. So I get what they were thinking. They were thinking, hey, we're going to have a good defense putting this group together, and we'll be slightly below league average from three, and then we're going to just get by that way.
Yeah.
And that hasn't happened though. They've been ridiculously below league.
Yeah.
They've been like horrifically, historically bad from three. And so that's part of what, like, you're right. They don't have a lot of shooters, but they also built this team assuming, okay, well, everybody's just going to be a little bit below, and we'll deal with being a little bit low in that area. But they're so low. I mean, so like you would never project that any of these guys would drop this far as they have in these first 4 games. They're so low that it's preventing them from being able to compete, because they simply can't make anything. I was telling you before we came on here, I've never seen this happen with a team. I've seen games where teams don't shoot well, but a 4-game stretch where nobody can hit a wide open shot, like it's unbelievable.
Even my guy Matt Ryan, like they even broke him. Like it's like a disease. Pretty soon teams are gonna be like, we forfeit our game because we can't risk the infection of the Lakers being near us.
There's a joke among Lakers fans that there is a like everybody talks about the Lakers tax and trade efforts. Maybe it's a blanket tax, but there's also a Lakers tax in shooting, where shooters, whenever they come to the Lakers, you automatically take 5% off of whatever their career average is. That's kind of the general rule, because we've seen it happen with like Reggie Bullock and players like that. So
man, and
I don't know if it's a cumulative effect of all of that. Suddenly that tax went through the roof. I don't know, inflation. I don't know what this is.
We'll find out if Kyle Korver comes out of retirement and all of a sudden is a 25% 3-point shooter. Then we know it's for real. Because I think Kyle Korver, 20 years from now, when he's deep into his 50s, pushing 60, will be able to walk onto an NBA court and bury a 3-pointer without much worry, right?
Oh, I've got Lakers fans saying they need to sign Carmelo Anthony with that mindset of he could make a 3.
It's true. Hey, at least this year they're not crappy and super old. They're just kind of crappy. Like we're looking for silver linings. Guys, we promise to. We have no intentions of, right? Because you guys, if you want to hear Trevor talk Lakers, where you can find that. But we know if there are things going on with the Lakers or the Celtics that aren't great, we don't talk about them. It looks like we're intentionally like skipping over these things, and we're trying not to do that. Here on this show too. That's a lot of times we're saving it for the end, so that if you're like, all right, they're just gonna gripe about this for the next 10 minutes or whatever. But yeah, it's just, it's happening. And the reality is hey, you could call us, exceptionalism or not. It's two of the biggest teams in the league, and they're gonna get a chunk of the coverage on the show, for as long
True.
as it's interesting. And all you need to do is look back to last year. The minute the Lakers were officially eliminated, and probably a couple weeks ahead of that when we knew it was coming, we basically stopped talking about it because there was nothing left that was
There
interesting
was nothing to
to
say.
talk
Yeah.
about on this show, on the front office show. Yeah, Lakers specific, sure, but here. So what? Christmas-ish, we'll probably stop talking about this team until
Yep.
they trade Russ or AD. Did you see that floating around on the timeline today? Now,
Yeah. I
the way
mean,
out of
people
this
are
is to trade AD, and it's like, oh boy. But
yeah,
that's a topic for another day where we can get into that.
absolutely.
One quick update on one of our earlier stories. Shams Charania is now reporting Damian Lillard gonna be out 1 to 2 weeks with that calf strain. So it sounds like Portland's gonna be pretty cautious with their star guy, which
Yep.
makes sense given what he's been through in his recent injury history.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, a little bit without Lillard. We'll see where things go with the Lakers. A lot of injuries today. Oh boy, so much negativity in today's show. Hopefully, we have some positivity tomorrow. Probably will because the Lakers aren't playing tonight.
We talked about the
So
Jazz. They're 3-1. They're
that's
fun.
true. That's true.
Cavs 3-1, right? Wizards
They're getting
3-1
there.
despite injuries. Yeah,
They're getting there.
there you go.
All right, everybody. Make sure you do subscribe to the NBA Front Office Show. Don't forget to follow us over wherever you get podcasts as well: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere else. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.